On Christmas Eve, my wife left me. No arguing, no tears, just a suitcase rolling across the tile and the sound of the door closing, as if it split my whole life in two. I wandered out to the park in the snow, huddled on an ice-cold bench, my mind empty. Then I saw a young man trembling, lips turning purple, with no coat. I didn't think much. I took off my thickest jacket and put it over his shoulders. A few hours later, engines roared. A convoy of black Mercedes pulled up and filled the entrance. That man stepped out from the middle of the security detail, his gaze strangely calm, and said one sentence that made me understand. Tonight, the one who would regret it wasn't me. My name is Frank Callahan, 63 years old. If you were abandoned right when you were at your weakest, what would you do? And where are you watching from? And what time is it? I stood in the kitchen, my hands still smelling of butter and cinnamon, watching the clock creep past 6:47 p.m. Minneapolis was blanketed in thick snow. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the living room. The oven kept ticking steadily. I had made the honey-glazed ham like every year, scored it in a crosshatch, studded it with cloves, brushed on the glaze, covered it with foil. Those small tasks used to be us. My name is Frank Callahan, 63 years old. I used to be a union electrician, then a maintenance supervisor for an office building. I'm not rich, but I always believed I was the one who kept the home together, kept the heater warm, kept the lights on, kept meals on time. The front door opened. Denise walked in without taking off her gloves, without hanging up her coat. In her hand was a small suitcase. The wheels rolling over the tile sounded like dragging the final word of an ending. "Frank," she said, her voice so calm it was cold. "We need to talk." I wiped my hands on the kitchen towel. "Are you hungry? I'll make hot cocoa. The kids will probably video call in a bit." "Don't," Denise cut in. Her eyes looked straight at me. No anger, no tenderness, just like she had already decided. Don't turn everything into routine anymore. I felt my stomach go hollow. "What's going on?" She set her phone down on the table, screen face down. "I can't keep going. I'm tired. I'm in this house, and it feels like I've disappeared." "We can fix it," I said quickly, like someone grabbing the edge of a table when he's about to fall. "We can go to counseling, travel, start over." Denise shook her head. "Frank, you just want to fix the schedule. I need a different life." I looked at the suitcase. "You're leaving tonight?" "Tonight." She let out a breath. "I've already arranged it." I didn't ask who arranged it because I was afraid of the answer. I only heard my heart pounding in my ears. "Are you seeing someone?" Denise was silent for a beat. Then she nodded. "Yes." That word fell onto the kitchen floor like a glass cup. I heard it shatter in my head. "How long?" "A few months," Denise said, and for the first time her voice trembled slightly, as if she still wanted to be forgiven. "That person makes me feel alive." "Alive," I repeated. "So what am I? A chair, a shadow, what you're used to." "Don't make this ugly," she said. "I don't want to take anything from you. The house is still your house. I just want to leave." "Great," I gave a dry laugh. "You leave the house, then take my whole life with you." Denise looked down. "Frank, you're a good man, but you haven't really looked at me for a long time." One sentence hit the softest spot. I wanted to argue, but I remembered the nights I stayed up fixing outlets, saying, "Tomorrow," then tomorrow again, until it became years. I remembered Denise's eyes when she told me things. And I just said, without looking up. "What about the kids?" I asked. "I'll tell them after the holiday." Denise answered quickly. "I don't want to ruin their Christmas." I swallowed hard. "But you're willing to ruin mine." Denise didn't answer. She pulled the suitcase past the kitchen like she was walking through a rented room. At the doorway, she stopped, her back to me. "You'll be fine." The door closed. Just a soft click, but it echoed in my chest like the lid of a box being locked. I stood still for a long time. The oven beeped one more time. The smell of meat started to burn. I turned off the oven, turned off the kitchen light. I didn't look at the table I'd set, didn't look at the Christmas tree blinking like it was mocking me. I grabbed my thickest coat, the old parka Denise used to call my old man coat, poured coffee into a thermos, stuffed my keys into my pocket, and stepped outside. Snow stung straight into my face. The whole neighborhood glowed behind windows, laughter faintly drifting from other homes, and I walked alone toward the park, as if only a cold bench had enough strength to listen to me breathe on that night. Loring Park that night looked like a photograph with all the sound pulled out. Snow lay thick on the paths. The streetlights cast pale yellow streaks, and the wind moved through the bare branches like sandpaper. I walked slowly, trying to let the rhythm of my steps keep my mind from shattering. Behind me was the house with the oven still warm and an empty chair. In front of me was darkness, cold, and so wide it made me feel smaller. I sat down on a bench near the frozen lake. The metal cold cut through my pants like a waking slap. I hunched my shoulders in the old parka and lifted the thermos to my lips. Hot for a second, then cold again. I looked at my hands at the wedding ring glinting under the light. 32 years ago, Denise had slid it onto my finger in a small church in St. Paul, her hands trembling with nerves. And now my hands trembled because I didn't know who I was anymore. At 63, people think you're used to loss. I had seen my father off, my mother off, had watched friends retire and then fall ill. But being left on Christmas Eve in the kitchen I had stood in for decades was a different kind of loss. It didn't take a person away. It took away my definition. I still breathed, still walked, but the role of Denise's husband had been stripped from me like an expired access badge. I remembered the small signs I had ignored. Denise stayed silent longer after dinner. She stopped showing me family photos on her phone. She no longer asked what I wanted to eat. I thought it was age fatigue. I thought, it'll be fine. I lived on the phrase, it'll be fine, the way I lived on a steady paycheck. Certain, safe, numb. And I had let that phrase make me blind. I pulled the zipper up to my chin. The wind still slipped in like a thin knife. Far off, a family hurried past the park gate. Adults carrying gift bags, kids in knit hats with reindeer on them. I heard their laughter, and then it disappeared. I saw them like I was seeing a different life, not mine. I lowered my head, trying to swallow the burn in my throat, but my eyes still warmed. Part of me wanted to go back home, close the door, turn on the TV, pretend Denise had only gone shopping and would come back. But I knew if I stepped into the bedroom and saw the closet half empty, I would collapse right there on the floor. I didn't want to collapse. I didn't want anyone to pick me up the way you pick up something you dropped. I just wanted to disappear for a while, to hurt first and then figure things out. I walked another loop, listening to the snow squeak under my shoes, like the city was trying to hold back a sob. My phone vibrated. A message from my youngest daughter. "Dad, you and Mom okay? We can FaceTime later." I looked at those words and my heart tightened. I couldn't answer. I couldn't turn my child's Christmas into a call that delivered bad news. I shut off the screen and shoved the phone deep into my pocket like shoving a grenade. The snow fell heavier. I began to feel cold down to the bone, but that cold felt comforting in a strange way. It was concrete. It had edges. It wasn't vague like the pain in my chest. I pressed both hands to my face, breathed warm air into them, and then asked myself something I had never asked. If I don't have Denise, what do I have left? I knew how to fix wiring, how to replace a thermostat, how to make everything run smoothly. But did I know how to make myself happy? Did I know how to choose a song because I liked it, not because she liked it? Did I know how to name? A crunch of footsteps sounded behind me, offbeat. I lifted my head thinking it was police or someone who needed help, but what I saw was only a thin figure, walking at an angle as if trying to keep balance. I stood up on instinct, both wary and confused. Under the streetlight, I realized he wasn't wearing a coat, just a thin, long-sleeved t-shirt, wet with snow, and bare hands turned purple from the cold. Before I could think, my mouth was already speaking. "Hey, are you okay?" He stopped a few steps from me, his breath coming out as white smoke. His eyes were red from the cold. Yes, but not dull. It was the look of someone who had walked too long and no longer had anywhere to go back to. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Why don't you have a coat?" He swallowed hard. "I'm looking for somewhere warm. The warming center closed early. Tonight, everyone's busy." I looked at his bare hands, purple from the cold. "You're going to get frostbite." He shrugged, then shivered harder. "I lost my coat. It's a long story." I opened my thermos, poured coffee into the cap, and handed it to him. "Drink a little. It's hot." He looked at the cap like he was looking at something rare. "I don't want to bother you, sir." "I'm Frank," I said. "Drink." He took it with trembling hands, sipped, and his eyes closed from relief. When he spoke again, his voice was clear, not like someone drunk or rambling. "Thank you," he said. "You don't need to help me." "Tonight I don't need a lot of things," I replied, "but life still makes people live." He glanced toward the bench, then looked at me. You're sitting alone in the snow on Christmas Eve. I'm guessing you're running too." I meant to stay quiet, but the truth was already sitting in my chest like a stone. "My wife just left," I said. "Tonight." He nodded slowly. "I understand what it feels like to be left behind." I blurted it out, then held myself back. "Sorry, I don't want to dump this on you." "It's okay," he said, and a gust of wind hit, making him curl in on himself. The park was empty, snow falling thicker, the paths dark. I thought only one thing. If he collapsed somewhere, tomorrow morning no one would know his name. I had just been left in my own kitchen. I couldn't stand the thought of someone else being left on this snow. I pulled my zipper down. The cold bit into my chest. He looked at me as if he could guess what I was about to do. "Don't," he said quickly. "You'll be cold." "I still have a home," I said. "You don't." "I'll find one," he said, but his voice had no belief in it. I took off my coat and held it out to him. "Put it on." He stepped back half a step. "I can't take it." "I can give it," I said, "and I'm not going to stand here and watch someone freeze in front of me." He stood still for a long time. Then he took it. When he pulled it on, his shoulders sank into the thick fabric, and he let out a long breath like he'd just gotten out of cold water, and I shuddered, the wind slipping through my thin sweater until the skin on my hands stung. My wedding ring touched my freezing finger, as if reminding me something can be lost in one night, and something has to be held on to by action. "You just saved me," he said softly. "It's just a coat," I replied, folding my arms tight against my chest to keep warm. He looked at me. "Not because the coat is expensive, but because it belongs to you." I nodded slightly. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Graham." "Graham," I repeated. "Listen to me. Go to the late-night diner on Hennepin Avenue. Sit there until morning. Don't come back to the park." He nodded. "What about you?" "I'll go home," I said, even though I wasn't sure what home meant anymore. Graham lifted his hand as if to give the coffee cap back. I shook my head. "Keep it." He looked at me longer, then said, "People don't see you because they only look at what they can use." I frowned. "What?" "Tonight," Graham said slowly, "you saw someone who brings you no benefit. That's why you're rare." Graham turned and took a few steps, then stopped. "Frank." I looked up. "If I find you again," he said, his voice steadier, "I'll give back what you gave." "I don't need anything," I said. Graham didn't turn around. "Everyone does," he replied, and then he walked into the darkness. Oi, carrying my coat and something warmer than coffee. Without a coat, I could only make it a few hundred meters before my hands and feet started to go numb. The wind lashed through my sweater, cutting straight into my chest. Tonight, I wasn't okay. I was just trying to survive minute by minute. After leaving the park, I stopped under the awning of a convenience store with the lights off. I leaned my back against the wall, breathing hard, watching snow cling to my sleeves. In my head was still the image of Denise's suitcase rolling across the tile and the door closing softly but decisively. I wanted to call the kids, wanted to say something so I wouldn't disappear from the world, but I couldn't. I didn't want their Christmas to begin with. Mom left Dad. I stepped away from the awning, planning to walk home alone when I heard engines. Not one, many, moving slow, steady, heavy. Headlights swept across the snow. I turned and saw the first Mercedes roll in, glossy black, tinted windows. Then the second. The third. They lined up in a curved formation along the curb like a unit. My mind fired off possibilities. Police? An incident? Or someone looking for the wrong person? Car doors opened. Men in long dark coats stepped out, earpieces in, eyes scanning the area quickly. They didn't shout. They just took their positions, turning that stretch of street into a locked-down space. One man walked straight toward me. "Sir, are you Frank Callahan?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, who are you?" "Don't panic," he said. "We just need to confirm you're safe." "You're cold." I tried to say I was fine, but my chattering teeth wouldn't let the words come out clean. The man signaled. A thin thermal blanket was wrapped around my shoulders. It wasn't luxurious, but it kept me standing. The door of the Mercedes in the middle of the convoy opened. A figure stepped out. I recognized the way he walked before I recognized his face. Graham. But not the Graham from the park. No thin shirt, no bare hands. He wore a dark wool coat, clean shoes, hair neat. He looked at me the way you look at someone who needs to be found. "Frank," he called, his voice low and clear. "What a relief. You're still here." I stared at him, then at the cars. Who are you? Graham came closer, signaling the men behind him to keep their distance. He held out my parka, dry now, neatly folded, still warm. I'm returning your coat, he said. I took it, and it felt like taking my skin back. What is this convoy? Graham exhaled, like someone who had already prepared the answer. My full name is Graham Mercer. I run Mercer Development. That name made me freeze. I looked at him, then back at myself. A 63-year-old man in a thin sweater, face pale from the cold, standing in the middle of Christmas Eve like someone life had forgotten. So, earlier you said you had nothing. I only said I lost my coat, Graham replied, and I truly was lost. He looked straight at me, his voice slowing. Frank, you didn't just keep me from freezing. You gave when you were falling to the bottom yourself, and that saved a part of me. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Denise's pain was still inside me, the emptiness of the house still there. And yet in front of me, Graham stood calm, as if everything had been arranged to find me. He pulled out a thick business card, the letters embossed, and placed it in my hand. I want to invite you into the car, he said. We need to talk, right now. And I promise, tonight won't end the way you think it will. I looked at the card, then at the snow melting along the edge of the thermal blanket. I didn't know what I was about to step into, but for the first time since the front door clicked shut, I felt like I had a choice other than just enduring. I sat in the back seat of the Mercedes, warm air from the vent slowly bringing feeling back to my fingers. The windows were tinted, the city sliding past like a blurred ribbon of lights. Graham sat across from me, keeping his distance, not imposing. Do you need to go to the hospital? He asked. I'm just cold, I said. The shock is what's making it hard to breathe. Graham nodded. I'm sorry for frightening you. This convoy is my security team. I disappeared for a few hours and they searched everywhere for me. So what were you doing besides walking around without a coat? His eyes darkened. I was checking the company's community fund. The reports look good, but out there, people are still cold and hungry. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I didn't say anything. I understood that kind of clean paperwork. In maintenance, the paperwork can be perfect, and the heating system still dies at midnight. Graham continued. After a betrayal, I started doubting everything around me. I went out alone, no assistant, to see how the world treats someone they think is worthless. Most people just walked past. Then I met you. I tightened my grip on the parka in my hands. I just didn't want to watch someone freeze. Precisely because you didn't ask who I was, Graham said. You're trustworthy. The car stopped in front of a small hotel. Graham took an envelope from the front seat and handed it to me. Inside is a room for 2 nights and the contact number for the fund's attorney. I don't give cash. I just want you safe. I tried to refuse, but he lifted a hand. Frank, you have every right to say no, but I need to be clear about what I came here to do. He set a thin folder on his lap. I want to invite you to be a field consultant for the Mercer Community Fund. 6-month trial. You go with my team to warming centers, shelters, winter home repair programs, and you speak plainly. What's wrong? What needs fixing? You were a union electrician, right? You know how to look at a system and see where it leaks. I let out a short laugh. I'm 63. I don't have a business degree. A degree can't teach you how to see people, Graham said. And you saw me. Silence fell between us. Part of me wanted to refuse. I didn't want to be pulled into a rich man's game. But another part, deeper, had been awakened on that bench. The feeling that I still had use. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A text from Denise. After the holiday, we'll talk paperwork. I'll send it soon. Not a single question about whether I was okay. I stared at the words until my eyes burned. Graham glanced once and then looked away. I won't decide right now, I said. You don't have to, Graham replied. Just sleep warm tonight. Tomorrow morning, if you want, I'll have a car take you home to get your things. Then we'll talk at the fund's office, transparent, by the book. I looked at the business card in my hand, just a name and a direct number. Graham, I asked. Why me? He answered slowly, as if choosing the truest sentence. Because you gave when you were being abandoned. Someone who can do that won't abandon others just because they don't offer any benefit. Outside the window, the snow kept falling, but for the first time, I could see that tonight might turn in a different direction for me. The next morning, I stood in front of a glass building on the bank of the Mississippi River, holding the business card like it belonged to someone else. On the revolving door, the words Mercer Community Fund glowed with a cold brightness. I'd walked into plenty of job sites, but I'd never walked into a place where everything smelled like new wood and expensive coffee machines. A young receptionist took me up to the 11th floor. "Mr. Callahan, Mr. Mercer is in a meeting, but the program team is waiting." The way she used my last name made me straighten my back a little. The conference room had 7 people, most of them younger than my son. They looked at me like a test. A man with glasses opened his laptop and launched into a quick introduction. "I'm Evan, project manager. Here's the winter data: number of beds, number of meals, number of entries at the warming center." He spoke smoothly, like he was selling an insurance package. I listened for a few minutes, then asked, "Have any of you been there?" Evan blinked. "We have reports from partners." "I'm asking if you've stood outside the door at 9 p.m. I said, calm. "Have you seen people shaking because there's no space left?" No one answered right away. The communications lead gave an awkward smile. "We mainly do strategy." The door opened. Graham walked in, dark coat, eyes alert. He scanned the room and said, "Frank's asking the right question. Get in the car. We're going today." We drove to a warming center in North Loop. The sign said it was open until 5 p.m. Outside, a line of people stood pressed to the wall, the wind cutting like a blade. The center manager, a woman named Carol, pulled the door open and said quietly, "We're short on staff. We don't have enough insurance coverage to stay open late." I stepped inside and saw 3 old heaters, one of them dead, a loose outlet, power cords patched with tape. I crouched, touched it lightly, then looked up. This isn't a lack of money. This is a lack of people doing the work right. Evan started to take notes. I raised a hand, or write less. "Call an electrician and HVAC right now. I can show them the fault in 10 minutes. Graham didn't ask, "Should we?" He turned to his assistant. "Call." Then he looked at me. "What do you need?" "Hours," I said. "Open until 10 p.m. on weekdays, weekends until midnight. And there needs to be a shuttle to get seniors home. No one survives on a report alone." On the way back, Graham stayed quiet. I thought I'd gone too far. Then he said, "I've paid millions for beautiful charts. You just gave me a plan that saves people." The next day, Carol texted me. The heater was running, and that night, no one got turned away because of closing time. Evan sent an email apology along with photos of the line moving inside. I read it, and something in my chest warmed. That night, I went home to grab more clothes. Denise wasn't there. Half the closet was empty, but I didn't collapse anymore. I folded my shirts, packed my bag, and for the first time, I understood. I didn't need to become a new man to start over. I just needed to become the real version of myself and step out of the cold. 3 weeks after Christmas, Denise called me, not to ask if I was okay. She called to talk about the paperwork. "Let's meet at the coffee shop on Nicolette," she said. "Let's make everything clear." I agreed. I didn't want drama. I wanted a clean ending. The cafe was crowded, warm, smelling of espresso. Denise arrived in a new coat, eyes assessing. She looked at me like she was searching for proof that I'd collapsed, but I just sat up straight, hands around a black cup. "You look okay," she said. "I'm working," I replied. Denise set a stack of papers on the table. "Legal separation first, then we'll figure the rest out." I nodded. "Fine." She hesitated. "Frank, I've been thinking. I know I was awful that night. I just panicked. What if we talk again?" I looked at her hand. No wedding ring. I remembered the suitcase wheels across the tile, and I remembered the snowy bench. I wasn't flaring up with anger anymore. I could just see clearly. "Denise," I said, "you didn't leave because you panicked. You left because you chose to." Her face darkened. "What do you mean by that?" The cafe door chimed. A man walked in, steady stride, dark wool coat, calm eyes. Graham. He didn't come with a loud crowd, just one assistant standing at a distance. Denise turned, then went still when she recognized him. "Graham Mercer?" "Yes," Graham said, polite. He turned to me and set a thin envelope on the table. "Frank, the city signed the additional permits. The warming center will stay open later. Take a look for me." Denise stared at the envelope, then at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "What are you doing with him?" Before I could answer, Graham spoke, his voice low but clear. "Ma'am, you didn't abandon a failed man on Christmas Eve. You abandoned the only man I trust to rebuild the things my money can't buy." No one in the cafe heard that sentence the way we did. For Denise, it was a slap. For me, it was a latch clicking shut. She swallowed hard. Frank? I didn't know. You did, I said. You just didn't think I'd get back up. Denise reached for the papers, her voice smaller. Can you give me a chance? I slid the stack back toward her. I gave you my whole life. The chances I have left, I'm giving to me. I stood, put on my coat, not trembling. Sign it, Denise, and let's leave that Christmas behind us. I stepped out onto the street, the cold biting my face, but my heart steady. Behind me, Denise was silent. At the curb, a Mercedes waited like a quiet send-off. 6 months later, I stood in front of the same door at the warming center in North Loop, but this time there was no line of people huddled outside. The new sign clearly read, "Open until 12 a.m." Inside, the heaters ran quietly, the outlets had been replaced, and a small shuttle van was parked and ready to take seniors home. Carol smiled at me. Frank, last night, no one had to sleep out in the snow. I wasn't wearing the old man coat parka anymore. It hung at home, clean, like a symbol. I wore a new coat that I chose myself, not to look younger, but to walk straighter. I was still Frank, 63 years old, only now I didn't live to be approved by anyone. Denise signed the papers. She texted a few times after that, sometimes long, sometimes unsteady, like someone standing outside a house that had been locked. I replied only once, "I'm okay. Take care of yourself." Nothing more, nothing less. Some doors have to close so you can breathe. Graham didn't turn me into a fairy tale. He simply opened the right door, then demanded that I walk through it on my own 2 feet. I learned how to read reports, but more importantly, I learned how to ask the right questions. I learned that kindness isn't something for others to exploit. It's a filter. The people who can make it through that filter are the ones who deserve to stay. That Christmas Eve, I lost a marriage, but I found something I thought had expired, my own value. If you've ever been left behind when you were at your weakest, what did you do to stand back up? Leave a comment and tell me what city you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. I rid everyone.